6 o'clock. I'm going to call to order the February meeting of the Ann Arbor Independent Community Police Oversight Commission. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask Ms. Cummings to do our roll call.
When I call your last name, please state that you are present. Chair Carter,
Present.
Vice Chair Offman,
Present.
Commissioner Billups,
Present.
Commissioner Milgram,
Present.
Commissioner Green,
Present.
Commissioner Haynes,
Present.
Commissioner Francis,
Present.
Commissioner Liu, Commissioner Mainley,
Present.
Commissioner Cooper, Commissioner Pipkins, Councilmember Iyer,
Present.
Councilmember Harrison. We have quorum.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the commissioners to please take a look at the agenda and the minutes from our last meeting. And after doing so, we'll entertain a motion to accept first the agenda and then the minutes of our last meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I'd like to move approval of the agenda.
thank you. Is
Second.
there a-
Second.
Thank you. Have a second by, moved by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Hoffman, that the agenda be approved. Is there any discussion? Any additions to the agenda? All in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going to have the same drill with the minutes. May I have a motion for approval?
I so approve.
Sorry.
Commissioner Haynes, so approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now is the time for public comment. Do we have anyone here joining us today who would like to address the commission? We welcome anyone to come forward, and for any of those who are watching us, we welcome your input, not just complaints, comments of any kind, and we'll move on. I want to, again, recognize our officer who comes and sits with us. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. There's no one online? All right, then we'll move right ahead. First is the report from the chair. I want to wish everyone a happy Black History Month. It's the last week of Black History Month. And, you know, if we don't know our history, we don't know where we're going. One thing that I wanted to mention as a Black history fact, you know, the reason for our existence hinges in large measure on what has gone before. And the relationship between communities African American descent and the police have been rocky from the beginning. And for those who aren't aware, some of the first police in the country were in the early 1800s were the slave catchers. And so from that time to this, we've been trying to repair. And so that gives us a good reason for continuing the work that we do. I was at a meeting the other day, and the moderator said an organization's success is dependent on the commitment of its members. And I said that was probably worth repeating. We certainly appreciate the commitment of all of the commissioners. It's good to see everybody here today. I'm going to remind you to please check your city emails on a regular basis. Hopefully every day. Doesn't take that much. Just, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I bet you heard me though, don't you? What? What's happening? What, is that okay?
Yeah, he needed you to speak up.
I don't need to repeat everything I just said, okay. check your city emails. Once a day would be good, because that is the way that we communicate. I know that Commissioner Francis, on behalf of the Outreach Committee, has asked us all to submit a headshot, which was hard for me. I didn't have one, so I asked my husband to take my picture, and then she's got to kind of zoom in on it. And I think that was sufficient, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so it doesn't have to be a professional headshot. This is for our presence on social media. And so we appreciate what the committee is doing with that and look forward to her report. But please, respond. Respond to that request so we can, it would be good to have, although I'm not on social media, it'd be good to have those people who do want to look up the commission on social media to know who we are. Okay. Next, when we were, I know Commissioner Pipkin was there as well, when we did the table at Juneteenth, we were passing out the little cards with the driver equality ordinance, the 10 things that police no longer would stop a motorist for. And I think that the community was quite interested in those. Would you agree with that, Commissioner Pipkin?
Definitely, a lot of people weren't aware.
I definitely think people were interested in those cars, and it was interesting that a lot of people were not aware of the new ordinance that was passed. So it was an eye-opener for a lot of people, and a lot of people did take it and to pass out to others.
And we, those were printed out by the police department. And so I think it's been suggested to me that it's our turn to print them, because we're out, as far as I know. Ms. Cummins, did we get a quote?
Yes.
Do you remember what, do you have it with you?
I think I sent it to you.
I'm sure you did.
Possibly.
I think probably was about 200 or so. I don't know what the number is.
I think it was a couple $100 to have them printed. I'm not sure how many that was, to have them printed and then laminated.
Yeah.
Back in December.
So they had it printed at Staples.
Mhm.
And it looks like it was 5 by 3. And 24 standard on white, so that looks to be about, 100 or 200. So depending on which ones you guys want, for 100, it would be 166.23. For 200, it'll be 295.27. That's to do the whole thing.
Print and lamination. Well, which reminds me as well, I know we're going to get to, you have in your packet flyer for a event that's coming up this Thursday
Yes.
that I'm not going to be able to attend, unfortunately. I know I have another engagement. I know Commissioner Cooper had said he could come, and hopefully some other commissioners will be able to attend that. And I meant to bring, I've got a stack of things to set on the table. So maybe I can drop those off to you, Commissioner Haynes?
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll have to do it tomorrow, won't I?
Okay.
Okay, I will do that. But in any case, it's good to have these things when there is an event that they'll let us have a little table space. So I'm looking at, I don't think 200 is too many. I don't know if that's too few. What do you all think?
For this Thursday?
No.
No.
This is to have them, the laminate, it's a different document. This is just the cards with the driver equality ordinance on it.
200 is not too many.
It's not too many?
No.
No.
They go very fast. Is it the same ones that? Yeah. They go quick.
I agree. So do you want to do more than 200?
So if I might interject, and this is preliminary, but an organization, our Delta Sigma Theta social justice organization that's putting on this particular one this Thursday is also going to be doing a second one. And at that one, we anticipate talking more about the traffic ordinance.
Okay.
And it would be good if we could have enough of those to give out at that one. And that's going to be in May.
Okay.
So does it make sense to print more now?
I mean, the ordinance isn't going to change, they're not going to spoil. So I think we can certainly, I mean,
Yes.
do you want to find out what the, maybe 400
I think
price is?
I think between 500 and 1,000 and see what they can give us. Maybe the more the number is the cheaper
Cheaper.
per unit.
Is there a reason why they have to be laminated?
It was just nice.
Okay.
Listen, and people can put
And
them
not
on
just
their,
on real card stock or something?
Because it's something that people will carry with, it's gonna, if it's just
Okay.
on regular card stock, it'll
Okay.
eventually.
All right.
yeah, we
So I
had people
understand.
saying, well, we're going to put them on the dashboard. Or I said, well, don't reach for it if you're stopped. But to have it is good. And the lamination, I think, was good. Was good. So can I have a motion to approve printing of 500 of the cards, printing and lamination of 500 of the cards showing the driving equality ordinance? And if whoever makes the motion wishes to insert a different number, that would be okay. We'll see.
I make the motion to print 500 of the laminated card that we're talking about.
Is there a second?
Second,
So we don't have a figure yet, but we can go ahead, I think, based on what we know, and approve that, whatever that cost is going to be. All right, any further discussion? We got to discuss first. Any further discussion on that motion? All right, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. We are going to, we have a new procedure, and this is especially for the information managers, anyone else who's considering becoming an information manager, new transparency procedure that we've worked out with the chief. We appreciate him, and as you know, we had talked about the redactions that we get on reports and on video, on body-worn camera videos. So what's happening now is that it's only once a month, right? Is that right?
Every 2 months.
Once a month? Every 2 months?
Yeah.
Okay. Every 2 months, we sit down, and any of the information managers that wish to come, I know Commissioner Green came the last time, and along with Vice Chair Hoffman and myself, and we can, in the police department room, we can see the unredacted materials. And we can see the unredacted videos. And we discuss what we see. And the last time, the chief was there and several of his command staff were there. And I thought it was just a really good session. And we looked at some things and actually made some recommendations, even where we said, well, okay, there's not anything to complain about, but we think maybe you ought to think about this. So there was a way for us to discuss with the department there, and I just, again, appreciate Chief Anderson for setting this up. Commissioner Green, you have anything you want to add about that?
I thought it was very eye-opening, and the videos were very helpful, and we could see for ourselves what was happening as opposed to being told what happened. And like you said, it was unredacted. It was in real time. So I appreciated it. I thank Chief Anderson for as well as being so transparent and allow us to do that, because I think it's critical for us.
Yeah, I do too. Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think the meeting went beyond 2 hours, I believe, and because there were at least 4 or 5 of those complaints and videos, and many of them went beyond half an hour each. But the important part was the looking at the videos from outside the police eyes is really important, because yes, we agree with the findings, but Commissioner Green saw some other aspect, another angle to the video where he recommended that can be used as part of the training of the police for the safety of the police officers as well as for the safety of the citizens. And again, we appreciate the positive reception on part of the chief as well as the commanding officers who were over there. So that was really an important thing to see is, yes, there were no kind of violations and all these things, but there were issues that were raised that can be used to, in the future, to make sure that the officers are aware of their own safety as well as safety of the citizens they are dealing with. I think that is an interesting thing. So it's always important to have that type of another pair of eyes outside of the professionals looking at them. So I felt that was really an interesting thing.
Just because it was so interesting, we're sitting there watching. The complaint had to do with, just I'll speak into, because I think it's interesting enough that we understand what it was. The complaint had, there was someone who called the police for someone with a gun. And the police officer arrived, one officer arrived first, and then some other officers came. The person who supposedly had the gun was described to the police. When the police got there, there were 2 men there. One who fit the description of the person and someone who was talking to him. And the police went up to the person who fit the description and just sort of told this other guy to get on back and stand up, which he didn't right away. So and Commissioner Green is just, it was so keen a perception. While they're focusing on this guy, he could have given the gun to the other fellow. But they just almost totally ignored him. And so this was a case where we said, maybe you want to show this to your officers and say,
What was the complaint?
I'm sorry.
So the complaint was someone complaining about what the officer did to that person that they described as
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The complaint was that the police came brandishing with their guns, and one had the gun with one hand and all these things. And it's like a complaint, not from the individual who had the description, but from another employee.
Someone else who was watching.
that was watching and registered the complaint.
Yeah. So it's a good thing. The only drawback that I see is that we have some of the information managers who work. And this obviously has to take place during the day. So, I guess we can still work on that. Hope maybe if you have the date early enough, you can plan around it. Those of the information managers who are working, but we think it's going to work. Okay, finally, everybody should have seen the final draft now of the annual report. And if you didn't look at your email. So I had a couple of the commissioners respond. I appreciate it. Commissioner Hoffman told me about a different formatting issue, which I think I've worked on. I didn't do 1, 2, 3, but I did bullet points.
Perfect.
And Commissioner Milgram is going to get me some information. Did you see it in Word?
Oh, did you already send it back?
I sent it. Okay, I sent it not that long ago. So, and I said I certainly didn't expect it by today, but we'd like to get the final by the end of the week. And then I'll ask Ms. Cummings to send it on to Kimberly Mortson, who's just a really did an excellent job for us in setting it up last year. So, does anybody have anything today they'd like to add, or any other comments, or any other corrections that we can make? And I told Ms. Cummings I would get it to her, and she was happy, and she was, I don't know what we'd do without her, but she was good to get us a draft. So this is sort of a final draft, but still a draft. So take it home. If you need it in Word, I can send that to you so you can work on it. But please, we want to get this wrapped up. Close the books on 2024. Okay? Any comments today? Okay. That is all that I have. And so we're going to move on then to old business. Do we have any old business? I did the old business already. What was it?
Now we on reports from committees.
Okay. Well, we're just moving right along, aren't we?
We love it.
All right, we're going to go to committee reports. Policy Committee, any reports?
Just a very brief update. We're continuing to work on the review of all the policies. Commissioner Liu has provided a template for us and is working on it much more diligently than I am. I'm determined to catch up to her. The only other thing I wanted to mention is on the redaction policy draft. Last time we had a brief discussion of it. I had asked if anybody had any other comments, they could provide them to me by email over the course of the next month, and I haven't heard anything back. So I don't know if that means there are no comments, or if there are any comments to come. That's fine. But if not, I think the department's waited long enough probably for the volley back, and so we could probably, if there are no objections from anybody among the commissioners, that the last draft that you saw last month, I think we'll submit to the department.
Would you make a motion, please, to approve the last draft of the new?
Yes, I would move that the draft that was submitted and discussed briefly at our last meeting of the last version of the policy reduction, or the redaction policy revision, be approved to be submitted to the department.
Is there a second?
It's probably a better way of phrasing that. But
I second.
So the redaction policy is still going to be important, although we have this every 2-month session where we can look at things. Everything doesn't need to go in that.
well, I was actually going to ask how that how this review
Yeah.
procedure now affects that. So it's not, if every other month, information managers are able to actually go in and spend time and look at all the reports, every report unredacted. I mean, it's not to say we can't revise the policy based on what's reasonable, but it does seem less important, right?
What do you think, Vice Chair?
I think one of the issues that we have is when the problem was because there was change of personnel at the police department.
Right.
And there was a sergeant who was basically in charge in providing us with redacted videos as well as the material. Now I think they have someone in place, and they will work on that and will provide us with the videos. Now, if there are some videos where we feel that there were quite a bit of missing information, in that case, we can probably discuss that at our meetings with
Okay.
the department.
Well, so, I mean, I guess the answer is, rather than be dependent on what personnel happens to be, in the office at a particular time and how they're going to manage things, we ought to have a policy in place that would be at least the fallback, if not the first position, going forward.
I think it's important to have that.
Yeah,
I think it's important to.
Understood.
Motion was to approve the redaction policy as presented at our last meeting of
Right.
the policy committee.
And to be approved and to be submitted
Approved and submitted.
to the department for their consideration.
For the police department?
Yes,
Madam Chair, I have a
Yes.
question.
sure.
Okay, as a new person on the commission, I don't know all of these things, so I'm not sure I'm understanding what we're talking about. So are we talking about the review of all of the policies of the commission?
Okay. Two different things.
Okay.
So, we're happy, anytime there's something that, say, wait a minute, we're happy to go back. We have the policy committee that is reviewing all of the policies of the police department.
Okay.
There was a particular policy, because we were having some difficulty, the information managers have to review the complaints that come in from citizens. And part of the review includes reading all the police reports involved, watching any body-worn camera video, and then we fill out a form that talks about, and I think we're going to hear more about that form today. And once the information manager has completed their review, and then we'll send the form on to the chair, vice chair of the information managers, and the vice chair here, Commissioner Hoffman, and he reviews them, and then we send it back to the police department. So that's a case-by-case citizen complaint review. Problem had occurred. In order to review citizen complaints, we have to get the report from the department.
Right.
And many times, the reports were heavily redacted that we got, and if we found it difficult to even figure out what happened, because there was so much redaction.
Okay.
So we've been going back and forth for a while now with the redaction policy, trying to make sure that we can do our job and review the reports.
Okay.
So that's what this particular policy has to do with, what can and cannot be redacted. One of the issues that was holding the whole process up, just so everyone knows, apparently, we would get the reports by it's not email. What's the system that we get the reports from? Yeah,
The complaints?
the police reports.
Share something.
On SharePoint?
SharePoint.
So what we were told is that anytime that information leaves the police department, it could be considered public information. So we didn't want, the department did not want the reports to be part of the public domain. So that, as I understand it, was their concern. Our concern was having enough information so we could figure out what's going on. So these transparency meetings will help, but we do still need the redaction policy, I think.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Madam Chair. So are these reports subject to FOIA or not really?
Good question.
Subject to what?
The Freedom of Information Act. Are the unredacted copies subject to FOIA?
I think we would have to have an opinion from the city attorney's office.
Okay.
So I don't want to speak to that.
So any material that the...
I'm sorry, you got to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. I'm Lieutenant Petterly from Ann Arbor PD in charge of the professional standards
Thank
section. Just something on the redaction policy and what we're working through with FOIA. So anytime that any information leaves the police department, it is subject to redactions under FOIA, which is like a legal standard of what information can be released based on, protection of the people involved regarding sensitive information or their personal information or things of that nature. So any documents that we do send out into the public are subject to FOIA redactions.
And as I understand, and this has been my argument for months, that the same rules apply as far as the department is concerned to ICPOC that they would apply to release to the public. And so...
But are you suggesting, though, that since these folks came to visit the department, it hasn't been released, so it doesn't fall under, therefore, they don't fall under FOIA? You haven't distributed
Right.
it outside of the department?
Correct.
Yeah,
And I
if
think
they're
that's-
in-house.
Yep, something that we were working on developing with the commission here to have this transparency meeting where we can bring everyone into one building within the police department and have an opportunity to, take a deep dive and a look at everything that we are talking about concerning these
great solution.
complaints.
Yeah, right, right.
So just to get some clarification.
Yes, sir.
So the items that are subject to FOIA, the police department can redact to a certain extent? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes, there are requirements
Okay.
for that, yes.
But
Not
we're
only
working
can, but
on-
Must, really, I mean,
Correct. Yep.
Must redact or can redact?
well, both. I mean, there are certain things that they must under FOIA, the way that the lawyers have, and that's why, well, I'll let you speak to that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're correct. Anything.
Must redact,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
But we work on a policy that allows a few of us to come in and look at the reports, look at the reports unredacted, in-house, in the videos, unredacted.
And I still think the policy
And they're
might
not
be
released.
separate from that, because within the policy as well, we're working on creating ways to anonymize information and still working within the parameters of the FOIA redactions that we have to have, but still have it be more understandable when read by the commissioners.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we had, and that's why the transparency meetings, because nothing is being released.
Right.
So we're working through it. We had, for instance, a report might read, blank told blank that they saw blank. And you couldn't make any sense of it. When what FOIA requires is the release of personal identifying information. So there was also a process where they would identify, the department would identify suspect 1, witness 2, so at least it made sense.
Okay.
So it's quite a process that we're working through, and we appreciate the department's cooperation, but because we've got to be able to do our job. Thank you,
Yep.
Lieutenant.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else about the redaction policy? We've been going back and forth. They've sent us a couple drafts. We're sending them back another draft. We'll see what happens.
I have a question, more so not about the redaction policy, but in reference to when we went to the NACO this October, it seems like a lot of other commissioners are able to share with the community about the complaints, and make that known within the community, and we are not able to do that because of what we just discussed, or?
Well, and I think it was the city of Detroit that on their dashboard started putting up the complaints, but it wasn't without redaction. I think the officer's name involved was not included on the public dashboard and some other information, but yeah, you're right. There are other oversight bodies that have different, and then some are in different states as well, so.
The other thing is also, it depends on who is filing the complaint and through either ICPOC or through the police department. If it came through ICPOC, meaning that we know individuals, so they're not going to be redacted. And when we get back, we'll get the information. Now, if it's going to be through the police department, we have no, there's no like hints to the person information who had the complaint, etc. So there will be probably more redactions and at the when the complaints are filed directly with the police department. So there are some minor differences between the two.
I guess my thing is being able to give accountability for those officers that are continually doing things, and to be able to see that this officer is always having these type of complaints or over, the force complaints and things like that. So not being able to hone in on that aspect of things.
There is a method that has been worked out where by number, we don't know the officer's name, but it is tallied under the officer's number. So that we should, as I understand it, we should be able to see if any particular officer has a number of complaints. And we can see that, again, we don't have the officer's name, but we have the number that's assigned, and that's not their badge number. That's the number that's assigned in this whole process to that officer. So, and the department also keeps, as we understand it, keeps track of the number of complaints that come in about an officer. So that is being tracked.
So just one quick
Correct.
question. So if a number is assigned to an officer, if there's a pattern of obvious abuse by that officer, is there some point in which we can find out disclosure as to who this officer is? Because we never know who the officer is, it doesn't help.
Right. I don't think we've actually gotten there yet in
But we're
terms
moving
of
toward that.
being able to see a pattern with any particular officer. I know we are capable of
I'm
seeing
simply
the pattern.
suggesting, that
Yeah.
at some point, if there is some abuse by an officer, we need to know who that officer is.
Right. No, I agree.
And to that point, if there is excessive abuse by an officer, would we be able to see what steps the department has taken in disciplining that officer?
I think from what we got from our meetings is we asked the question is when there is a sustained findings, what are the corrective measures that the police is applying towards any of the officers who was made to be not at fault, but he maybe did not follow the policies, the complaint was sustained, etc. And we are not going to know exactly what did they do because there are some other issues related to collective bargaining, laws, etc. But I think the police department keeps tab on the officers, and also they have probably different degrees of discipline, whether written, whether warning, whether maybe a week without pay. I think probably Lieutenant, can you please tell us a little bit? You're more familiar with this than us.
Yes.
So before you answer that question, Lieutenant, so following up on that one, are there policies written within the police department that would address X number of, I don't want to say offenses, but lack of a better word, offenses that a police officer has, or citations or whatever you would call it, that a police officer would have? Are there policies that address that? And I'll leave it at that for right now.
Yeah, so I'll cover a couple different things. So within the department, we do track all disciplinary history of all the officers that we do have, and then that is tracked statistically. Also, I know at just previous meetings that we've had, we've talked about new complaint management software that the department is going to be introducing here in a couple weeks, iPro and Blue Teams. This is going to give us an even better ability to track officers' behaviors, whether it's complaints, use of force, things like that, and an even greater ability to generate reports to be able to track that type of thing. I know we're going to work together with the commission to have regularly scheduled reports that are generated and provided so that the statistics are available. And then along the line of what you're asking as far as policies within the department, as far as multiple infractions or things of that nature, there is progressive discipline that is within policy. So if something is done once or then repeated, it would have a kind of escalating progression of what discipline would be associated with that officer.
You know, part of the issue, I understand that the department keeps records of discipline. But if we're looking at complaints that didn't necessarily result in the officer receiving any type of discipline, but if we see a pattern of complaints of the same nature against a particular officer, are complaints also kept?
Yes, that
Tracked.
is also kept and tracked as well.
I thought
Yes.
they were. Thank you. Now, we had this come up because a citizen filed a complaint. The complaint was sustained. We agreed this shouldn't have happened, and we let the department know that. And the department told us we have appropriate discipline has been administered. So we met and we talked about that because, in this case, the citizen wanted to know, what was the discipline? So what was explained to us is that if an officer is disciplined, that goes into that officer's personnel file. And that personnel information cannot be made public. So that was kind of the issue. But what we said was, we can't even see it, so we can't really assure the public or the complainant that we believe appropriate discipline. And part of what our charge is to review the discipline that is handed out by the department, which we can't do if we don't know what it is. So we talked about this with the department, and that is a policy that needs work. And I think at the time we talked about it, the department agreed that at least ICPOC should be able to know what the discipline was. So I'm asking the policy committee I don't know what the policy is, but I know you all are familiar with the policies. If you can find that one that deals with notification of the type of discipline. And we'll take a look. I think we probably need to restructure, at least submit some kind of restructure for that one. Commissioner Hanks.
So this may be off track, or I don't know, but what just came into my head is when police candidates or police officers are moving from one jurisdiction to another or from one police department, to another police department. So if there's somebody from, I don't know, Minnesota and has moved here and wants to be a police officer, but that person, I guess my question is there a way to check that person and see if there have ever been any complaints against that person as an officer in another jurisdiction before coming here? Is that information available in between departments?
So yeah,
or
that's
between
not necessarily
departments?
within my area of expertise within the department, but whenever an applicant applies to the department, there's a thorough background investigation that's performed on them, which would involve, you know, any prior departments they've worked for or anything like that. And that's when, that point in time, that information would be turned over to the department for consideration.
Thank you.
I have a question, Chair. You, to go back to the situation where the complaint wanted to know what was done to the, as far as the officer. So how do we reassure the community that things, when they bring a complaint, that it in fact is being handled, and then when it is handled, to what extent? Like, if we can't give them any information?
I don't think we.
Because, I mean, that makes no, I mean, why would I file a complaint if I don't even feel like the officer, I won't even know if something was done, so I gotta just assume that they're gonna be honest about something being done?
I think what they do is when we ask the same question is about corrective actions. And we were told that, yes, if there's a sustained complaint, there is going to be some kind of corrective actions taken by the police department towards that officer. We don't know what it is. It's up to.
But if I, as a citizen, make the complaint, how would I?
All what we have information about is, yes, corrective action was taken by the police department towards the officer. This is all what we can say. We have no jurisdiction over what these disciplines or should be or what they are.
Right.
All what we can do is we can ask, was there any kind of action on part of the department? And the answer will be always yes. But we have no idea about the nature of the actions taken against the police officer.
Which is why we need the policy changed. In the incident that I talked about, where the citizen wanted to know what discipline was, and all we could say to, and we do report, all we could say to that complainant is, your complaint was sustained, and we are informed that appropriate discipline was taken. We would at least like to be in the position to say, your complaint was sustained, we have reviewed the discipline, and we believe it was appropriate. So we can't even say that now because we don't know what it was. So that's why that policy, at least we should be able to get that far, where we can assure the complainant that we believe the discipline was appropriate.
And just in defense of the police department, you know, there are some privacy concerns, and I think that they're entitled to. I don't think that any employee, whether they're a police department employee or any employee of any government agency, wants all of their business in the street, so to speak. And certainly things that are part of their personnel file should not necessarily become public information. But to my sister commissioner's argument, there should be some response to the complainant that something was done, we reviewed it, and we believe that the sanction was appropriate.
And if we don't believe, for whatever reason, if we don't believe it was appropriate, then we can discuss it further with the department.
So the policy committee will obviously look into this. I don't know offhand what, and maybe Commissioner Liu does if you've happened to see this and remember it, but that's fine. So we'll look into what and maybe if the lieutenant wants to shed any light on this at all, that's fine. If not, that's fine too, but, because we'll look into it. But, so we'll determine what's described in terms of when and how officers are disciplined. The lieutenant spoke to levels of discipline for more than one offense. And then, I'm pretty sure I've seen something about this in there, I don't recall it, but I'm fairly certain there's probably not an additional section for disclosure to ICPOC. But if there is,
No.
great, and if there isn't, we'll ask for that.
Right. Okay, very good, thank you. Did we ever vote on the policy? All right, so we are looking at, there's been a motion, it's been moved and seconded that the
Updated redaction policy be approved and submitted to the Ann Arbor Police Department.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion carries. Thank you to the Policy Committee. Training Committee, any report today?
No report.
Okay. Again, though, we want to, Commissioner Haynes has been kind enough to bring us a copy of this flyer. And so we're asked, this one doesn't necessarily deal with the Ann Arbor Police Department. Got Pittsfield, Commander Rush from the county is going to be on this panel dealing with community policing.
Well, there will be a representative from the Ann Arbor Police Department as well on the panel.
So again, if anyone can go, I certainly would be there, but I have another engagement that same date and time. So please take a look at that. And we look forward to hearing more about what's...
The training.
The training, but also the other event that's coming up in the spring.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Outreach Committee.
Thank you. So first and foremost, please check your emails. I sent email request for our social media commissioner profiles. And if you could just get back to me, that'd be wonderful. So we're moving forward with that. Some of you who did send your info, thank you so much. Moving forward with our symposium, our social justice symposium. Right now, we're thinking about having it May 22nd. It is a Thursday. Think about it. If there's any big objections, let me know this next week, and we can still move it around a bit. And that'll be it. Yes. Should be at Mallett's Creek. We'll be talking with press tomorrow about the committee, or about the symposium. And now we're sort of recruiting speakers. We have 2 who have confirmed, and looking to get 1 to 2 more. And then we'll start advertising and promoting, and once we begin that, I will be reaching out to all of you for help disseminating the word, and also any sort of suggestions that anyone has. In the meantime, please feel free to email me. Happy to discuss any ideas. I do want to talk to somebody about live streaming it, so possibly our AV people in the ether right now. If we could live stream it, that'd be wonderful, because there are people overseas who I believe would want to view. And we did receive, I reached out to, and we received the official sort of blessing from Jude's family to proceed in her name, and they are happy that her name is going to be attached to, doing good in the community officially. So that's where we are as of right now.
Now, is this, I know we're talking about social justice. Is there going to be any kind of emphasis, say, on police or justice, criminal justice, or anything like that?
Right now, we're kind of building the theme around the presenters, so there will be issues related to police oversight and community policing. But I also have, right now, one of the speakers is actually a graduate student in my lab, and she's very talented. Her name is Cheyenne Garcia, and she's going to be talking about some of her research, but also past work that she's done in housing, and specifically she's going to talk about older adults and homelessness, which is a very real epidemic right now, and interactions with police in regard to their housing insecurity. So we're trying to get a wide variety of topics as well.
I don't know if this fits or not, and I will give you his name. There's a professor at U of M who has done work, and I actually talked to him about coming to present to ICPA. But his research has to do with language. And, I'm very concerned about how we speak to one another, and that it makes a difference how we speak to one another. But they actually did research, and through body-worn camera information, they could predict the outcome of a police stop based on the language initially used when the police stopped the motorist. If it was going to turn violent, if it was going to turn bad, and little things like the way that the officer addressed the citizen. I think a lot of that we have, looked at in connection with our driving equality, and also the chief's new directive that he talked about at the last meeting, which requires an officer to identify themselves and tell the motorist why they have been stopped. We know that's now a policy for the department. But anyway, I thought it was interesting.
Definitely. Is this a psychology professor, by the way?
Not sure what department he's in,
Okay.
but I'll send you his name.
Okay. I might know who you're talking about, but that would
Okay.
be wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Yes, questions?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Is this intended to be a meeting as well, correct? Would we be, or not?
Not-
Maybe it's not, okay,
As of right now.
okay.
I didn't want to co-opt one of the meetings.
Right, so we have when we did the other one at the Westgate Library, it was a meeting, it's fine. I mean, we'll have a meeting, I guess, the next week probably, right? Okay. And then can you share who the other, you have one other speaker you said so far?
Well, I had talked to Dr. Karpiak
Okay.
a while back, and he had indicated
Got it.
his enthusiasm to take part, and as long as he's available, I'm hoping that enthusiasm remains.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for all your work on this.
Thank you.
Commissioner Green?
Yes. Madam Chair, you talked about the impact of language in an encounter. That seems to relate to training. Is part of our function, and part of making suggestions to the police department as to what training should look like, or is that part of the training committee's obligation or no?
Yes, and we have, over the last year, well, at least since a new chief came, we have been talking to them about, okay, so we would like to sit in on training and just see what's happening. We have been told that that is not good for the training class.
I get that.
So we're looking at ways to review what the training is, and there were 3 specific areas that we were interested in. So far, I think the department is willing to sit down with us, but we just haven't been able to get it done yet.
No, we have not, and we're still working on being able to solidify a date when we could go in and actually speak with and see what training materials are available. We've looked at de-escalation, and language is part of that, so we will be dealing with that. We've looked at facial recognition and talking about if that is being used and how it's being used. And we're also thinking about mental health and how they address people that are going through mental health issues and how the police are addressing that, whether or not they will bring in a professional to help with that. Just what is the training? So those are just some of the topics that we're looking at having.
And as well, there might be some bias training included in that package.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay.
It is, and one of the recommendations, again, in our annual report, we listed some specifics that we were requesting training on, and bias
Sure.
It's one of them.
is part of that. Implicit bias, I guess.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Information managers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think today probably we're going to be discussing a couple of things. One is the numbering of the complaints, and the second one is the update form of the template for the report. And I have a few things to say about numbering. As of today, our numbering is whomever is receiving the complaint will give a number. So the police department will have a number, and the ECPAC will have a number. Sometimes it's really hard to reconcile between the two, because you could have a number. Now, number 1 was filed by the police department, number 1 filed by ECPAC. So there are some designates in the number that would distinguish between the two, but when you look at the log file that we receive, you have 2 columns, one from the police department, one from ECPAC. What I'd like to suggest over here is to have uniform numbering where we can have the number sequential. It's like throw 1 to 100. Could be number 1, 2, 3, 5 came from ECPAC, could be number 2, 7, 10 came from the police department. So we can tally them one after the other. How we can distinguish between the two? Each number will start with CC, which is citizen complaint. The last 2 digits of the year, we are 25, dash 001, all the way down to whatever number we can go to, and dash IC, meaning that the file was filed, or the complaint was filed by ECPAC, or PD, personnel complaint that was filed directly through the police department. So that would make it a little bit easier. And we will have the file available for both ECPAC, Ms. Cummings, as well as the police department, so we're not going to have any issue with which number we're going to use for this complaint. And that would make it a little bit easier for us to assign the complaint and also to review the complaint. We also have a chance to say, well, you know, this year we received 50 complaints. How many of those were filed by or through ECPAC, or how many were filed through the police department. We can identify that easily by looking at the end of each number. PD, police. IC is ECPAC. So that would make numbering a little bit easier for us. I think in the past was a bit difficult because we have issues with the ones for this year or 24. We had received 28 complaints that were filed by ECPAC, and we reviewed those ones. Still, there are some pending ones that came through the police department. So just having those two different areas to look at is making the process a little bit complicated. I try to make it a little bit easier for us to have those ones streamlined. So, and I would entertain any of concerns or questions that the commissioners have before probably make a motion to adopt this number. We need to act on it now versus every time we have to discuss it.
Let me just ask the commissioners to take a look at the complaint form that's in your packet for tonight's meeting. And you can see up at the top, the first line, ICPOC complainant, and then it's 2 X's dash and 3 X's. So if it came in 2024, it would be 24 dash, and we would have started with 001 and 002. So by looking at the numbers, we know how many complaints we've had. What we're talking about doing now, you can see this says ICPOC. For the new commissioners, complaints from citizens can come in either through ICPOC, they can call our office, they can send them to us by email, or a written complaint can come directly to ICPOC. And then under the old system, it would be an ICPOC number. And they can also file a complaint through the police department. And then the police department would send the complaint to us. Then it would be a police complaint. Well, the problem was there was a list of ICPOCs, 001, 002, and there was a list of police, 001, 002. So there was confusion. So what is being suggested and proposed is that all the numbers are listed numerically as they come in, and at the end of the number, it would either say, is it IC?
IC for ICPOC.
IC for ICPOC or PC for police. So you'd be able to tell, looking at the complaint number, whether it came through the police or came to ICPOC. So the numbers would be sequential, and it would just, the suffix there would be able to, you'd be able to tell. Now, I know that the department is also looking at a new system, and so we're going to have to see how that works. But for now, we're looking to approve this new numbering system. You need a motion?
Absolutely,
Can I ask
yes.
a question?
Question, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks. I guess I'm not understanding because I thought we did this before in which the police department put the numbers and we were going by whatever number system they had at one point. And then we were having them correlate together. Is that wasn't the
I
case
think
at one point?
initially
Okay.
people were filing through the police department, and then we started getting more through ICPOC. Now we have two parallel systems numbering. One is from ICPOC and one from the police department.
Oh, gotcha.
And we want to have them cross-talk versus being separate.
So we first have to get with the police department to see if they'll be okay with issuing it this way? I mean, how can we make a motion if we don't discuss it first with?
I think there is no conflict in terms of numbering, because we are just going to go through 1 to 10, 50, whatever the number is. And you file which number. It's like you have 50 employees and they are coming to work at 5 minutes, one after the other. It doesn't matter. You just go and just click that you are coming, and you are coming, and you are coming, and you are coming, and we know exactly who
Oh, no,
missed
I
who did not.
understand what you're saying. I was saying, like, as far as being that they already have whatever in place with the police department, aren't we to get with them first to see how do we make it come together versus us making a motion here today to?
The suggestion or the motion is going to be for the 2025 numbers. And we know that the police department, they are going to be implementing a new system. So this is our, like,
Recommendation?
suggestion to them, how we can reconcile both numbers, so we are not going to have a conflict that number one and this year was filed by the police, and number one also was filed by ICPOC. They're not the same.
Right.
So we need to have them in a sequential way.
Yeah, I will just say, I know we've worked on the numbering system a couple different times to try to get it to work the best it can. I think where we're at right now is our new system is going to be our in-house trainings occurring next week. So at that point, we're going to work with the commission to figure out the best way to have the numbering system work in a system that makes sense.
Okay, so in this case, I'll probably table this motion.
Well, you can
Unless-
table it, or
unless-
we can send it as a suggestion,
Yeah,
while
well,
they're
yeah.
not, that this is the way we think it ought to
Yeah.
go, and they can do
Yeah.
with it as they wish.
Yeah, and I'd be more than happy to participate in the discussion about the numbering.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely open to discussions on that, and if you do have any suggestions you'd like to send forward to us for our consideration to review, we'd definitely appreciate that.
So I think a motion is in order. Commissioner Cooper, did you have a comment?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It wasn't really regarding the form, it's more a procedural question that I can just ask Commissioner Hoffman after.
Okay, thank you.
So there'll be on the table two motions. One is for the numbers, second for the update report. And also I will discuss the report after maybe you make the motion on this one, like get it out, so we can discuss the report.
Clarification. So under information managers committee, we are making two motions.
Nobody has made a motion yet, the first one.
Right, but there's going to be two. So the first one is for the complaint numbering system, the second one is for the test.
Correct.
And these are both suggestions to the Ann Arbor Police Department.
No,
And
this
I think
is-
the report is for us.
Right, with the numbering system.
Numbering is for the police, yes, yes, yes.
Can I have a motion with regard to the proposed numbering system for complaints?
I make a motion.
Okay. So it's been moved that the system of numbering proposed by the information managers, where the numbers would be sequential, whether it was an ICPOC complaint or a department complaint, be submitted to the police department for consideration and approval. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just have a question. So the example that's on this document that's in front of us has five digits. But one of the determining factors is the letters IP, IC, or PD.
That would be a suffix on the
So
end.
that's a suffix. So
Yes.
can we be clear that that's what the motion is?
Yes, the motion is going to be, the number, just to explain it again, is going to be starting with CC, which is citizen complaint, the 2 digits of the year, the last 2 digits of the year, dash, the number 001, whatever, 00, all the way down, and then dash, IC or PC.
Okay.
To identify whether it came through ICPOC or the department. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on this issue? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Now, the second issue from the information managers has to do with the form that we were looking at. It's a little different.
Yeah. Again, to make things easier for us to, when we review the complaints, is we were dealing with a draft that was suggested probably over 3 or so years ago. Now we have things streamlined. We have a better understanding of the process itself. And what I suggested over here is basically to have the report reflects how we receive the information from the police department. So you don't have to go and look, oh, what was the complaint and where was it placed in the information that we received from the police department. You don't have to go through any of that. Everything is basically a reflection to how things are organized by the police department. So it's easy to go and copy, paste the allegations or the findings, the conclusions, discipline, etc. And our review and our decision, our recommendations. That is probably going to be more of streamlined, especially for the information managers who had to deal with the current template that we are using. It's a little bit, I find it a little bit cumbersome, and I have been with it for a number of years. But this one is basically a mirror image of what we see of the material provided to us by the police department.
And don't forget, on the back, there's the last bar's on the back. For recommendations, sometimes we have recommendations and sometimes
Yeah,
we
and
don't.
just for the sake of abbreviations, this is why you find too many of these subheadings on the same page. But sometimes you might have one page for the allegations or the findings, etc. So the report might be more than just one page. But all the information pertaining to our report generating is over here. As I said, it's reflection to what you see, or mirror image to what we see from the police department.
And again, for our new commissioners, our ordinance says we can have up to 5 information managers who are designated to review the complaints and have access to the documentation coming from the police department. So at this time, we have 5. And if someone is interested in becoming an information manager, let me know, and we will be able to move at the next time there's an opening for that. Okay?
I would like to also make a motion.
We need a motion for approval of the new Commissioner Cooper.
Chair, I'm sorry. Can I ask one question?
Please.
Just
Sure,
with,
yes,
with
too.
what you just said, with the information manager. So, like, as the commission as a whole, do we get like a summary of like the findings, or it's only that stays with the information manager?
The answer is, as of now, there's no summary that comes. The form is sent out to the
Yeah.
complainant. So, I mean, it certainly is available when this is filled out as a result of a complaint, so that any of that information is available if any of the commissioners wish to.
Okay.
Wish to review those.
Okay. I was asking just because, like, if we're out in the community, if someone stops us and
Sure.
say, hey, there was some complaints, like, I wouldn't know anything. Obviously, we wouldn't discuss certain things.
Right.
But just to have a understanding of things coming in and or summarized, that's why I asked.
The report can be made public because there is nothing over there in the report. It's sent to the individual, and if someone, if the complainant wants to know more or wants to discuss the report or whatever, they are free to do that. If you hear someone in the community say, well, I had a complaint, you always say is, they can give you the information, and we can look into it and see where things stand. Or Ms. Cummings. She has all the information.
She has, all the complaints are there.
I'll just
Complaint
refer
forms
to
are
you,
there.
Ms. Cummings. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Okay, so there's a motion. Was there a second?
No one's yet.
You made the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the updated form of the report.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Manley, second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
So, from the report we heard earlier about, the complaint of the police officer going to the home and another one coming and all that. So, if this was in place, then all of that information would come back to us, right? Maybe not the person's name, obviously.
Yeah.
But if this was in place, then I'm asking if we would get it back, and if we get it back and it's shared with all of the commissioners, then answering your question, you would have some of the information. So if someone says to me, I heard that there was a complaint about such and such on this day, and I wonder what happened with it.
Now, first of all, this is a revision of the document that we've been using. So there are some changes to this, but there has been a document very similar to this.
Has it been shared with all?
Each
time it's
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it just seems like our hands are tied when we don't get the information, we can't share the information. It's like, what?
Does anyone else want to speak with regard to this?
So
Commissioner Billings?
we have not shared the report of the information managers with the full commission. So if the question is there some way that the body of the commission can get the final report, I don't see a problem with that. This is what's given to the complainant. And so the commissioners here would have the same access to this. We just have not been forwarding it. So if I would guess, I would, bow to Muhammad and say, is there a process or a way for us to take the final reports and make the final reports a part of the reporting process monthly or something to the full commission? I'm not for sure. That's what I would offer. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, some sort of summarized version.
Some kind of summary.
Yeah, even if it's pared down so that the full body could say, okay, these 10 things came in this month. I think that helps keeps us informed. Should we be stopped in the community or, or what have you? I guess that's what I was saying. I don't want to speak for anybody else.
I don't see any issue of sharing the report findings with the commissioners. We might not have personal information, or what we have is probably the number or where in the process the review is. Most of the time it's in progress. And we can have that also as part of our file, an Excel file that shows the complaints as they come and where they are in the pipeline of review. But definitely, if there are if we have somebody who filed through ECPAC, meaning that we know who this person is, because they give their names, etc. So it's not
right
a name that is like unknown. That person is known.
Right. So what we might suggest is that maybe there's a process by quarterly. We can report the information managers can complete a report that says we've, at this point, because it takes a while to review these complaints, right? We've reviewed this many complaints with this kind of outcome. Not the information of who, but maybe a summary of what kind of complaint it was, and if the information managers feel that we were in line with what the department said, or if we made a different suggestion to the department to say, we don't agree with this. Maybe that kind of summary.
Yeah.
On a quarterly basis might be something that could be done.
Yeah, I think that's fine, it can be done. What we can say is we reviewed X number of complaints. The ones that we agreed with the department, X number. We can also say that the complaints we received were typed. You know, type 1 is basically if you feel that you are not respected, you are not treated well by the police when you have the encounter with the police. Number 2 is arrest. Number 3 is this. Number 4 is reporting. And we can say, you know, of the sustained ones, X number of complaints were sustained, and we agree with that. And also we have recommendations. There are times when we say that we don't basically, it's not disagree with the findings, but we say inconclusive because we did not have enough information to judge the complaint. And we can also convey that to the police department. Say you have an encounter and there was, the police officer did not turn on his or her body-worn camera. There is no way to verify. I can't just take the words of the complaint or the words of the police. I would say it's inconclusive unless we have all the information. So, and that would be a recommendation to the department. I think we can summarize as Commissioner Phillips had suggested, quarterly or so, we can bring in how many cases we reviewed, completed, our findings, and where they stand. Agree, disagree kind of thing, recommendations or no recommendations. Yes, we can do that.
So it sounds to me, as the commissioners are requesting that information about complaints be conveyed to the entire commission. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
So it sounds to me like they're asking for and if quarterly is okay with everybody else, I think perhaps Ms. Cummins can help us by pulling out, you know, because we filed this to the chair of the committee, and he passes them on to Ms. Cummins, who sends the report to the complainant. So perhaps a quarterly report with, do you want is the number? Yeah, I guess with the number on it, so that if you wanted to follow up and see if this is Sam Jones's complaint or not, we could probably, if a citizen wanted to know that information, get that information. And the complaint allegations would be pretty much, it's only generally a few sentences as to what is being alleged in the complaint and what our determination was, and have that type of report from the information managers once a quarter perhaps. But before we get to that, there's a motion on the floor. And that motion was to approve this form, which is a change in the form that we've been using, but a minor change. We had a form similar to this. Okay, any other discussion on that motion?
I have one more question.
Sure.
If we approve or motion this, then we're gonna have to come back and motion it again because it's another change about to come with how it's gonna be numbered and how this is gonna look up top, right? Or
No,
not?
we already
So we just
approved
do
the
it-
numbering system, so that will be changed
Okay.
on the form. Okay, you're right.
Okay.
So we're approving this with the addition of the new numbering system.
Right.
Yes, everybody clear on that?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the form is approved. Now, is there a motion with regard to a request for a quarterly report from the information managers? Or do you want to sit on that for a month or so?
I second.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's...
that necessary to have a motion for that?
I think we should. You know, I like to put things in order, yeah. So,
Second.
quarterly report, is that what the motion is?
A quarterly report on the complaints that have been received.
Well, we're talking about, see, when we fill this out, it's completed.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you all want a report on the completed complaint reviews for the quarter.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's been moved by Commissioner Haynes that the information managers provide to the commission on a quarterly basis a report of those complaints that have been reviewed and completed within that quarter. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, is a report too formal? Should it be just summary? As opposed to the word report? I don't know. Because we're just some basic information in it, right? How many, whatever. We want to call it a report, that's okay, but at some point we call it a summary too, so.
I think probably might be easier to have it as part of the information manager's reporting, just a part of our subcommittee. And we make into account that it's done on a regular basis, like quarterly.
So is there any reason why we can't get a copy of this?
Right.
If this goes to the complainant,
Yes.
is there any reason why we can't get a copy of this?
Filled out, you mean?
Yeah, completed.
Isn't it on SharePoint already?
Madam Chair. Yeah.
Let's get some clarification. What is done with the report?
So, the information managers are the only one who has access to the complaints in SharePoint. If you are not an information manager, you do not have access to that. If you all would like a summary report of those complaints, the number, the findings and outcome, that's already in SharePoint. The information managers would just have to go in there and, like, it could easily just be an Excel sheet that gets added to the agenda so you all have a copy of it. It's not like a, simple. So if you all want a summary, it's already there in SharePoint. Information managers just have to go in, download it, and make it look pretty, or I can make it look pretty, but simple.
You make it.
Only everything
No, you
was
won't make it
simple.
look pretty. You won't make it look pretty.
So maybe we can, Ms. Cummings, do you think that by our next meeting, you can show us what might be available from SharePoint so the commissioners can look at it and see if that's what you want? A summary, just sort of a printout or whatever that commissioners can look at and see if that's what you want.
Yeah, I think that would be.
Yeah.
Commissioner Green?
Yes, so, just for clarification, is there any reason why the commission just can't get a copy of this report, review it, and return it back in after we review it? If there's some privacy concerns, I get it, but I think that would satisfy it.
Then that would take away from the committee.
I'm sorry, say that again.
If you guys get access to that and give recommendation, then that would essentially take away from the committee, right? Is that what you're asking?
No, not
give
really.
Recommendation?
I mean, if we, okay, say we do maybe 15 of these during the quarter. And at the end of the quarter, we share a copy of these with the commission. Okay, so everybody is up to date on what we've done, who did it, et cetera. And now we know.
When you say share, you're saying pass out the forms to the commissioners?
If that's what they want to see, yes.
So,
From my understanding, when ICPOC was created, it was informed that the information managers would only be the ones, the 5 of them, to have access to that. If you
So
all,
that's out there.
yeah, if you all want to change it, you guys have to change the,
Well, the ordinance
The ordinance.
is really what specifies.
The
I
ordinance.
know the information managers are the only ones who can review the reports from the police department.
Right.
And now, whether, your question is whether these documents can be shared with the information managers, I mean, with the entire commission. Would you-
That's what I'm asking, and I
You-
think that's what my fellow commissioner is asking as well. Why can't this report just be shared with the commission?
It should be able to because it's not designated it's designated per number. It's not.
That's true.
It's not based on anybody's personal information on these
True.
forms. So the only people who know what it's going to or who it's going to are the actual committee people.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Can I suggest that we table this, and for next week, for next meeting,
Okay.
I'll work with Ms. Cummins and see if we can look at the ordinance, see if we can figure out
Okay.
what we can and cannot do.
Well, and also, didn't you just ask Ms. Cummings to, I don't know, to provide it for the next meeting or provide it at any time between now and the next meeting? Show us what that summary that you spoke so glowingly about, and how easy it was for you to provide it, and we can take a look. Maybe that will suffice. And if it doesn't, we can go from there.
Yes, to print off a summary, and can I have a motion to table? The present motion is to have the information managers report quarterly on the complaint reviews that have been completed. I'm asking for a motion to table this until our next meeting.
Motion.
I so move.
Second.
Yeah. I wanted to add a comment, this is not.
Yes,
But
please.
I was just thinking about this whole discussion, and when we get.
Into the mic.
yeah, speaking to.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about this whole discussion, and when we get this information, it would be helpful for the training committee, because what we could characterize what the issues seem to be, and therefore we could come up with training opportunities or training suggestions. So I think this would be a good thing.
That sounds very good. And as I say, sometimes we do include recommendations, and those could be included as well, so you can take a look. All right, good. We have a motion to table. If I forgot my Robert's rules, I don't know if that requires a vote, but I'm going to ask for one anyway. All in favor of tabling the motion for the information managers to present a quarterly report? This is a motion to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so at the next meeting, we'll bring that back up, and we'll also have a copy of whatever it is that Ms. Cummins can easily print off. Thank you very much. Next is our council update. We want to welcome Councilperson Iyer. Thank you so much for being with us and being a part of us. Do you have any comments, update, anything you'd like to report on today?
Thank you, and thank you for the warm welcome. I'm really happy to be part of this body. I will defer to Councilmember Harrison, who's may have an update herself. I think the only thing I would mention is I had a nice discussion with Chief Anderson at my last Ward 4 update monthly meeting about data and statistics regarding the driving equality ordinance and what they are tracking. And I feel really good that that they're working to look at the data, take actionable steps with the data. And I think council is going to be getting a report in. Okay. I don't want to give a date. My understanding is it's going to be forthcoming in the next, couple few months, and so really looking forward to seeing that and seeing the results of that policy so far.
Good. Thank you. We are as well anxious to see any results that we can glean from the new ordinance. Mr. Harrison?
Yeah, nothing much to, thank you, Chair Carter. Nothing much to add to that. My goal for a report is in July, because that'll be the 2-year anniversary of us passing it. So I believe we will have something by then. And I'm just on the driving equality ordinance tour, kind of, we're in the implementation phase, as I've said before, but we're getting invited to, I've been, getting invited to different groups and bodies to, talk about the progress so far, and, what we're seeing. So we're waiting on additional data from Chief Anderson.
Well, we should have the cards. I would imagine when you go out, you'd want to hand those out.
Yeah.
Have those available. So I know Ms. Cummins will move right ahead with getting those ordered.
I had 2 that I handed out, my last 2, at the Ann Arbor Dems meeting a couple weeks ago when I spoke there about it. So people do want them. Yeah, we do. We do need them. A lot of people there weren't even aware that it existed. So.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a couple of little things. Those of you who checked your city email, I had sent out an email asking about, number one, whether you thought that the commissioners' names should be on the annual report. What do you think?
Yes.
And then we've had commissioners who were on during 2024, and at the time of the printing of the report are no longer commissioners. So what do we do about that? What do you think?
I say no. I just say it's, on the annual report, it's the commission body as a whole. I don't think we need to be individually named on there.
That was my thought, but, if I got the question as to whether we should do that. Does anybody really want the names of the commissioners in the annual report?
I think that, well, since I was not on in 24,
Okay.
and putting my name on that report means that I agree with everything that was there. I don't even know all of the stuff that was there. So my suggestion is that you put the names of the commissioners who were on the committee at that time.
Any other thoughts?
I agree.
I have a question. Why does that matter? Like, why do we need our name on the report if it's concluded as ICPOC as a whole? Like, why do we have, what's the importance of putting our names on here?
Believe me, I don't want my name on a whole bunch of stuff. I'm tired of it. But the benefit of it is for people in the community to know who the commissioners are.
Right.
But isn't that what we're about to do with the social media and the outreach stuff? Like,
Yeah, but that reaches maybe a different
that puts a
audience,
face
right?
to
It
the-
might be different audiences. The social media audience is a certain audience, and the report might be to a different audience. And just for knowledge of who sits on the commission, does the commission represent the community? For other people who might be interested and say, hey, Ms. Pipkins, I know her, she's on the commit, let me ask more about it and see if I'm interested in being it, or why isn't somebody else on this committee as a commissioner who represents another area? So I think it just gives an understanding of who is, and I'm not shooting to have my name, but I just think it's important for the commission to be recognized that way, for the community.
Well, and we're all listed on the city website already.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly willing to have my name associated with the commission, and we're all responsible for what's in that report. The chair wrote it with very little help. Nice job, by the way.
Thank you.
And but we're all being asked to read it and approve it. We're not signing it, but I'm more than willing to have my name put on, and I would suggest we all should have our names on it.
And also,
Commissioner I'm sorry.
and also because we are volunteers, and we are serving the community, and the community should know who these people are.
They want to know who to thank.
You know, if they don't like us, they come to us. We are not hiding behind just the ECPAC. These are human beings. Here we are, and I think it's important to serve the community, and the community should know who these people are.
Commissioner Green, you had a comment?
Yes. If the annual report has been adopted by the commission as a whole, we've adopted it, I don't know what's added by adding our particular names to it. I simply don't. But
Point of clarification, when you guys mention adding names, this is for the 2024 report?
Yes.
Are you guys making a motion to approve the names of commissioners who were on the commission of last year, or just those who are currently serving now and was on the commission last year? Because certain ones are not here today, and if we include their names.
But I think it would only pertain to the commissioners who were commissioners in 2024.
Right, and
But-
that includes those who are no longer commissioners, so are we incorporating their names too? Then I have to ask.
Because
They're no longer commissioners.
they're not, they haven't had a chance to approve the report.
It's true.
That is another issue. Okay, well,
So in that case, just leave it as it was.
leave it as it is, leave it as it
Yeah.
is. Okay, we don't need to take a vote on this. Anybody?
Right.
Everybody okay with no names?
I'm fine.
Okay. Second point, I sent out an email. I said, what do you all think about asking the police chief, Chief Anderson, to make a comment in the report? Nobody said anything, so I talked to him, and he sent a very extensive report, which I told him that I'm going to edit it down a little bit to about a paragraph. But much of what he was reporting on, we already had in the report. So that will be added to what you see. And hopefully, before the end of the week, you will get out a final draft to take a look at it. I say that, I'm trying to get everything done by the end of the week. I will not be available until like the 12th of March. So, if you got anything to say to me, say it before Friday. All right, any other communications? Ms. Cummings, any communications?
Anybody got any communications?
I have a question about the city council update. I remember, and maybe you guys discussed in the last meeting, I didn't see it in the minutes, where we were supposed to get a motion or something to city council about one of the policies within ICPOC, that it was just a recommendation the last time and wasn't fully, but I couldn't remember what, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
I think you're talking about the, oh, wait a minute. The serious incident
it was
response?
something where they said that we didn't get it, it was a recommendation, it was never approved by
Right.
council, and we had to come back, go over it, and then send it back to council. Like, we've never brought that back up.
That was,
Yeah. I forget what it is.
You don't think it was a serious incident?
it was something else.
It was something else. It was in pertaining to the policy or in reference to ICPOC and what we're able to do or see or.
Let
remember. I
us
have to go
review
back.
let
Okay.
us review the minutes and see if we can figure, everybody think about that and see if,
But I know it was something with city council and we had to go back to city council because the last time it was just a recommendation on the floor and it was never approved.
I think it was
I don't think it was
an
on that.
action. We want the city council to do
Or something.
an action
for us.
versus just information to them.
okay, let's look at that. If we put that on the agenda for next time. I have a question to our council liaisons. We came down for this transparency meeting and spent like $10 in the parking meter and presented our receipts and were told that we can't get reimbursed for our parking. And we have a budget. is that, where is that? Who said that? Where's that come from? That we can't get reimbursement?
What? The chief financial officer, Marty Cushman.
But I mean, where is that written somewhere?
I mean, that, when I asked, that was who asked. I mean, if you want, I can give you the follow-up.
Well, maybe we don't care, but it would seem as though if we come down for our training or for something like that, that we should be able to use our funds to reimburse us for our parking on presentation of a proper receipt. So I will look into it. If we can't, I'll get the name that, okay, I'll get that email and I'll check into that.
For sure.
Okay? All right. Anything further? Any other comments, questions? Yes. Please come right up. This is the time to do it.
Sorry, I didn't have them at the beginning. So I was wondering, for when you provide suggestions to the police department, do you ever get any confirmation that they accepted those suggestions or like what they did with those suggestions at all?
Sometimes is the answer. Sometimes, yes. It's generally a verbal kind of confirmation that, yes, we got your suggestion, and we have actually had a couple of our suggestions being turned into policy changes.
Really? Okay.
So, yes.
And then I was also wondering, when the police department sends you the complaints that people report to them, is there any policy in place that forces them to do that, or is it when they choose to?
No, if there's a citizen complaint, they pass it on to ICPOC.
They must, like they have to?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And then I was also wondering, for every policy that you pass here in the commission, does it have to then go to the police department to be approved every time, or is there a third party that mitigates that?
When we approve a request for a policy change.
Yeah.
And we provide that directly to the police department.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I did. I was just
Okay.
wondering if it was just them or if there was somebody else who
No.
approved or denied that.
No.
And then, I don't mean to waste your time, but I was just curious, and you don't all have to answer if you don't want to, but I was wondering why you chose to join this commission.
Well, maybe we'd be happy to talk with you after the meeting.
Okay, sorry.
We'd be
Maybe that's
very
not-
happy to talk with you after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
And also follow our social media, because you're going to get those answers in writing.
Oh, okay.
Week by week, so we'll talk to you after, but yeah.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime, we're happy to answer questions.
Good question.
Yeah. All right, if there's nothing further, then I have a motion. Well, before I ask for a motion, I want to thank Lieutenant Petterly for coming. We always appreciate the department. Again, thank our officer who comes and sits with us. We asked way back with Chief Cox, when people were coming into meetings with guns and shooting up places, and we said, can we have somebody come and sit with us during our meeting? And he agreed, and Chief Anderson has continued that, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion from Commissioner Pipkins, I'm sorry, it's
You're
late.
fine.
And a second by Commissioner Milburn. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is